I think we'll get started. Just to introduce myself, my name is Laura O'Brien. I'm the Marketing Manager for the College of Engineering and Architecture here at UCD. You're all very, very welcome to our webinar today. This is the fourth webinar we've had in our virtual Talk About Events series this week. And you're all very welcome to tune in. We're kind of really focusing in for this session on the student experience and the alumni journey. So we're going to have one of our current students from our Masters of Architecture program, Dara O'Keefe, speak about his experience so far. And we'll also have Nakimi from our Masters in Urban Design and Planning, and she's originally from India, graduated in 2020 and is currently working as an architectural assistant at Seoul Design Architect and Interiors. And she's going to talk about her career journey so far and his experience of coming to study with us for a master's program as well. Within our School of Architecture, Planning and Environmental Policy, we have a number of master programs available for students to choose from, and they include our Master of Architecture, our Master of Landscape Architecture, our Masters in Environmental Policy, our Masters in Regional and Urban Planning, Urban Design and Planning, and then our Masters in Planning, Development and Urban Design. So a good mix there within the built environment. If you want to hear more of an overview of all those particular programs and a little bit more about the school itself, earlier in the year we did have a webinar which was recorded from our academic head of school, gave a bit of an overview of all those kind of information that you might be looking for at the top level. So that will be available on our YouTube channel early next week, along with a recording from today's session. So please check that out if you want to find out more information like that. And my colleague Katie O'Neill, who's joining us as well today, will pop a link to our YouTube channel in the chat so you can check it out. And also on our YouTube channel, you'll find a lot more information as far as testimonials, research videos, and other events that we've ran the last number of years that you can check out as well for more information. And then also just to flag with you, the email I would have sent you with the link to join our webinar today, you would have also got a link to our event landing page. So please check that as well if you haven't had a chance to do that. You'll find links to our brochures for program information. You'll find links to the likes of the UCD virtual campus tour, links to alumni showcases and research and academic impact studies as well. So a lot of information there you can check out if you're considering coming to study with us here in UCD. So without further ado, we might get started. So first up, we're going to have our current student, Dara. As I said, he is currently studying our Masters of Architecture program, and he's going to give you a bit of an insight into his experience so far. So Dara, you're up.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dara. Just going to give you a brief experience and overview of my experience at UCD. So I actually moved back from the UK. I studied over there and I was working for a while. And I wanted to pick a master's that would open up a lot of doors for me. So UCD was the best option for me, for sure. The first thing I loved coming back to UCD was just the welcome. Everyone's very open and inviting. Everyone says hi to you passing, even if they don't know you. And I think one part of the architecture degree especially was the vertical studio that it ranges between first and fourth years, and it involves basically the entire school. It gave me a form of a leadership role as one of the more senior years. You could work with first, second, and third years. We'd obviously get different briefs, different levels, but it would help you work with them, pass on the knowledge, and again, create that entire school bond that I think is essential for everyone to progress and work forward in terms of architecture. I found that pretty incredible and quite unique to UCD. We had a range of installations in our first semester's projects all around the school, so we could go between different rooms and different buildings and just see what other people are working at, and it created quite a lot of buzz, but also innovation in the school itself. There's a lot of freedom in what you can do. Right now we're doing the GPO project on the GPO, the General Post Office in Dublin, which is an iconic building here in Ireland, has a lot of historic value. And the fact we work on such big projects like this, and we can actually potentially have some form of influence on the future development of some of Ireland's most iconic buildings, is really rewarding. And again, I think it's very unique to UCD. The reason I did pick this UCD and this master's was the accreditations. So there's 3 accreditations. There's the RIAI, which is the Royal Institute of Irish Architects, the RIBA, the Royal Institute of British Architects, and the NAAB, which is the National Architectural Accrediting Board, which is America. And before, I don't know of any other university that has this, but also I remember when I did look at working in America, I'd have to retrain, which was kind of took that off the table, which is phenomenal. Just gives me the opportunity to work globally in whatever firm I want to work in. So I personally like big architects and Macaroon, so two Danish and Dutch architects. I've also really enjoyed working in this capital city in Dublin. There's a lot going on, a lot of events. We just had St. Patrick's Day, which was incredible. And yeah, it's just nice to work in where there's the hub of Ireland. Another feature that I really valued was being taught by practitioners. So all the lectures that we meet day to day, they're all at the top of their game. They're all working and innovating at this present time, which keeps them on the edge, and they'll have all the knowledge, which I found incredible. You can pick their brain and they'll give you an answer. One opportunity I was involved in a couple of weeks ago was Architecture and Its Stories, which was a global conference held by UCD, the All Ireland Research Group, and the Museum of Literature of Ireland. So that was really incredible to be a part of. Watch all the speakers. There's speakers from TU Delft, Stockholm, Australia, and some really famous Irish writers. Seamus Heaney's daughter was there, Catherine Heaney, Anne Enright. She even gave a closing speech, which was phenomenal. And just to be involved in cutting edge projects and thought tanks was, again, only something I've ever heard of here in UCD, and something I'm very lucky to be a part of. Career-wise, the master's here, I was actually working in England, and I felt my career was stagnating. I wanted something that would progress my knowledge, but also open up and elevate my chances of getting jobs. So I looked around, and UCD was one for me, especially with the 3 accreditations and the thought with the practitioners. I wanted to study in the city as well, in one of the best architecture schools in the country. And the fact that, we have practitioners teaching us just gives them, like, every part of knowledge that I learn, I know it's going to be pragmatic and I'll actually use it in the future. Teaching wise, I've loved the abundance of external speakers. We had Paul Arnold in my environmental module, for instance, and Dermot Bannon was a speaker, who's a famous Irish architect here in Ireland. But it just adds a certain flair to the program itself, and again brings in new ideas and fresh ideas. I found every module is engaging, but it's also challenging. There's not any easy, there's no easy modules, let's just say, which I quite like. For instance, this semester I'm taking computational design. So I'm learning about Rhino and Grasshopper, nodal coding, which is challenging, but the way it's taught, it's very hands-on, and that's what you need. You need that face time with your lecturer, and the support that's there is next level. So even after hours, I can send an email to my lecturer, and I know they'll always be there for me, which is really refreshing, the support system here. And for the future, I want to finish off my 4th year semester and get ready for my 5th year semester. I can't wait. Next year, 5th year, I'll be in this building in Richview. I absolutely can't wait. Can't wait to get a group together, push the boundaries, and really push it on. But that's about it, and hope you enjoyed.
Great, thanks so much, Dara. I think that's really interesting for our attendees to hear about your experience so far, and the kind of architecture is very hands-on, very practical. I'm sure we'll have a good few questions submitted. Just to say, I didn't say at the start, but if you do have questions, please feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to type your questions in, and we'll get through as many as we can, either to myself, to Dara, or to Nakimi as well. Any questions that you have, please engage with us during the Q&A. So Nakimi, I'm going to introduce you if you want to turn your video and your sound on and give a little bit about your career journey and also your experience of the Masters here in UCD.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Nachumai Vijayaraja. So firstly, thanks very much for inviting me to talk in this event, Laura. So I basically completed my bachelor's in architecture in 2014 in India, and I kind of had around 5 years of experience in multidisciplinary fields of architecture. So and then I decided to do my master's in UCD in 2019. So as you all know, architecture has multiple branches. Um, be it landscape, urban design and planning, heritage and conservation, or sustainability and energy efficiency. During your first few years of your undergrad or in the first few years of your work, you'll know what actually is your core area of interest is, and you'd want to specialize in that. So the best way to do that is to start with a master's program. As you all know, it's a fast-paced world, and if you have to go specialize and go forward and build your career, I'd say doing a master's program in your core area of interest is the best start for you to build your career. So for me, that's how I ended up choosing urban design and planning. And then based on the university ranking and the quality of education and stuff, I decided to do my urban design and planning with UCD. So for me, the entire process was very easy. From the application process to receiving admission, it was a pretty straightforward and very smooth process. And wherever I was struck, I was always helped in all of the stages immediately, be it the queries that was raised to the faculties or anything to deal with the administration department. It was all dealt very spontaneously. So so that's how I landed up here. And as Dara specified before, it was really very welcoming because my experience in India was totally different. And even to talk about the modules, there were a lot of differences. So for example, mine was a 5-year undergrad program in India, and that was mostly emphasizing on a lot of design oriented projects, whereas my master's in urban design and planning had a lot of research and writing. So that's a major difference that I felt with, because all of the modules are really challenging. Though it's very interesting, it's really challenging, and it requires high standards. So professors always helped and ensured that I meet up to the standards. And I never knew I could write so well unless and until I received help from my professors. So they're all highly qualified. Almost all of them are authors on their own and had published their own papers, multiple number of journals and books. And in most of the times when writing my assignments, I ended up citing my own professors for their own papers. I'm just saying that because that's the wealth of knowledge that you get from the professors, because all of them are into practice and into teaching profession as well. So you kind of get both their experiences and knowledge shared with you. So that was really beneficial for us. And apart from that, we also have a great amount of resources in the university. So one thing that I would like to highlight is about the library. From historical books to survey maps, you'll find everything in the library, and it's all very easy to access. Wherever many of my classmates were all from different backgrounds, had kind of not many of them are from the design background, so most of them had difficulties with regards to coping up with the research techniques and writing skills. So you'll also have tutors and library to help improve your writing skills and research abilities. You can also get help for your thesis writing. You'll also find people who can proofread your essays and assignments. So that's one great resource which I would recommend anyone to use. The digital library, you don't have to worry about books being polished out in the library. Almost all of the books will be available in the digital library, and you could have access to all of the books for a pretty long time. So what else? Yeah, so apart from these, you also have ample amount of opportunities. From career guidance program to CV and LinkedIn profile building workshops. You'll have various job fairs, conferences and seminars. So for us personally, being a non-EU, all of these programs and conferences and seminars were much beneficial, basically to interact, socialize, and improve all of the networking. And the university is also not less for any fun events. You'll also have a lot of such events happening. So with regards to the university entry, I personally had smooth entry, great learning, and filled with amazing opportunities. So to talk about my professional experience, so when I started to look for part-time opportunities, I was lucky enough to find an opportunity or a freelance position, a freelancing architect position as a part-time job. So that was a very small scale firm, and I had this opportunity to work from home on a part-time basis for them. So basically they provide me the details and the brief of a project, and I ended up doing the design development and drawings for them. So that kind of gave me a good bit of experience in understanding the Irish standards and the kind of details and the level of drawings that they produce. So so since the market was a bit down, it took 3 months for me to get my job. So my freelancing architectural role helped me grab this job as a part 2 architectural assistant. So I ended up in Sol Designs as a part 2 architectural assistant. So being an urban design and planning graduate, you'll have various opportunities once you step out of the university or once you graduate, right? So you can end up being an architect and work towards your registration. You can still practice architecture and also get involved into urban designing. You also have a lot of planning firms welcoming you. So you can also choose to be a planner. And if you'd had previous architectural experiences, you also have opportunities to be a interior designer. So your opportunities are plenty in front of you. So I wanted to be a registered architect on a long run. So I chose to work in a firm as a part 2 architectural assistant to grab that experience. So my firm basically works on a lot of residential projects and commercial renovations and extensions. So the firm is a small scale firm currently growing with the focus towards grabbing a lot of global projects at the moment. We're working on a couple of global projects as well, which are some fit outs and modular designs in US and Japan as well. So yeah, so I'm particularly focused on commercial extensions and renovations, which is pretty much interesting. And we're also focused on PRS schemes, furniture fit out accessibility and stuff. So that's a good bit to talk about the firm and the kind of work that I do. So that's it, I guess. And if I have to say something as advice, I'd say choose your program wisely. Be clear about what you want to do or what you wanted to pursue or what's your special area or core of interest is. So though you're very clear, that doesn't mean that you have to be closed. Be open to things. So you might get into something that is not part of your immediate radar, but in the future, that might get you to wherever you want to get in. So yeah, and once you're here, build your profile, CV, LinkedIn. So once have a great portfolio, try and participate and get into all of the networking opportunities that you get. Seminars, webinars, conferences, that'll all help you build your profile and portfolio. So once all that is said, getting interview is not a big deal. So since the market was a bit down in 2020, it was a bit difficult for a couple of my classmates to get the job immediately. But then now a lot of hiring is happening at the moment. So I don't think you'll have to worry about anything. So yeah, that's it, I guess. Good luck, guys. Thank you. Thanks, Laura.
So much. I do know that NACMI is under pressure. So if you do have any questions for her, just please type them in using the Q&A button at the bottom here, and we'll get through as many as we can. Katie, was there any that particularly came in for NACMI in the on private message?
Just, I know she mentioned she got her job after 3 months. just wondering, was there any supports within the university that were offered to her, or that she could rely on? Can students kind of reach out, and how would they even start a search is what someone's wondering.
Sorry, could you say that again, please? I just had this bit of disturbance. What did you say? Okay.
A student who is coming to us next year to do their master's, they're just wondering what supports are available for them to start their search for their career. How did you go about starting your search?
Okay, so I'd like to answer this in two parts. So if you're an experienced person who's already possessed experience in EU or in non-EU, the first thing that I would say is try and build your LinkedIn profile, add all of the experiences that you've possessed so far, do that. And if you're a non-experienced person, once you get into your master's or even in your undergrad, you would have participated in a lot of conferences, seminars, events, you would have initiated something under your leadership, something would have happened. So highlight all of that, build your CV, and try and get into participate in as many opportunities as possible, even in your master's, and include all of that, highlighting your hard skills along with your soft skills, because employers also look for your soft skills. Highlight all of that in your LinkedIn profile. So that's the first thing that I would recommend. So because a lot of recruiters and the employers would actually start looking into your LinkedIn profiles even before you start sending your CVs. So also, so once you feel you're ready to apply for jobs, say in the start of your third semester, during you start your thesis, or in the end of your third semester, so there's no good time and bad time to apply for your jobs. So you will have to be willing to take that risk. Let's say you're getting the, you're very curious to grab a job before you complete your master's, and you apply even before you complete your thesis. There are many chances, there are more probabilities for you to grab the offer even before you complete the thesis. And then you might be in a situation to take up the job. So that time you might end up lacking in your thesis, right? So it's the kind of balance, and it's a kind of risk that you're willing to take. So there's no good time and bad time in applying. And start reaching out, build your LinkedIn profile, build your CV, add all of the activities, be active in LinkedIn. Start reaching out to recruiters. You can also look for the websites, RIA websites, where you can even filter the kind of firm that you wanted to choose with. A firm that specializes in sustainability or heritage or conservation or urban design, they might post their vacancies. So start applying to them with a very decent and a passionate cover letter. So yeah, so that's what I'd say, and start reaching out to recruitment agencies as well. So things will fall in place, I guess.
I think you've offered some really practical and great advice there. I'll also in a minute pop up a link to the Careers Network as well. And particularly for our international students, there's even a Jumpstart program that you can take online now. But I think from what Natalie was saying, there's some very practical tips I'd certainly take on. Just one more question before you go. Someone's asking, in the urban design and planning, is it possible to cover more subjects in planning or design based? This would be based on the students' interest so that they could kind of shape it during their studies.
Okay, so you're saying what is the module majorly focused about? It's majorly focused on design or the planning? That's what you're asking, right?
That's really, they want to know, they're going to do the urban design and planning, and they're wondering, could they, I suppose, sway it more to covering more planning or more design based on what their interests are? Do you have a little bit of wriggle room there?
Okay. So the urban design and planning modules in UCD has a lot more focus towards urban design rather than towards urban planning. If you're very much particular and interested in planning, I'd say the MRUP course, the 2-year program, that's the one which has a lot of modules, which is very much focused on planning, because I had my friends doing MRUP and we had a couple of planning modules together. So So from what I personally learned and asked and learned from them, urban design and planning has a lot of modules which is more focused towards urban design. But that doesn't mean that you cannot get into planning, because you'll also partially touch planning. You'll study about the planning policies, comparative planning between cities and stuff. So you'll have both the opportunities when you emerge out. In fact, you actually have a lot of opportunities to be hired as a planner in a planning firm rather than being hired as an urban designer in an architectural firm.
Thank you for that. We've also got a question that someone's come in relation to, and I know neither of our guests today studied this. This is a relatively new master's, the MSc in Architecture, Urbanism and Climate Action, which is extremely popular. It's a 1-year, 90-credit master's. They're just wondering, does this offer the recognition of a professional title of architecture? It does not. If you want to be an architect, if you want to be signing off on architectural projects and working as a practicing architect, you do need to study architecture. And in Ireland, that means studying the 5 years, which would include your bachelor's and your MArch or your master's in architecture. And so just to confirm, the MSc in Architecture, Urbanism and Climate Action does not qualify you as an architect, although we have had architects come back to studying this 1-year master's. I don't know if either of our guests have anything to add to that, or you know anyone who's studied or studying it at the moment. Dara, I know it probably was before your time with Chami. I'd say that it's only come on board the last kind of 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah, we definitely have had last semester I had an overlapping lecture with them, but that was the urbanism one. But yeah, they're like all the schools overlap in some form or not. But yeah, you have to go through the rigmarole of the MArch to be a fully qualified architect. Yeah.
And even after that, once you're practicing, usually most people will take their professional architecture exams once they've got at least 2 years under their belt. So I think, like a lot of professions, there's always learning and making sure you're keeping up to date with your skills, but very, very much a passion anyway, I believe.
Yeah, I definitely have realized that I'm never going to stop learning, especially in the field of architecture. There's always technology or new laws, or everything's always progressing. So I'm a student for life.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Someone's just been asking me about a dissertation in terms of, I assume both of you would have, or sorry, Dara, you're probably considering I'll give you a little bit of feedback there. You're probably considering your dissertation right now. And Chami, you probably had read a 25 credit one, would that be correct?
Yeah, so I'm going to start it. We're starting it now. I'm going to do it all over the summer. I'm actually looking into muses, which is the old like, there used to be stables on the ground floor, and then the upper floor used to be where they lived. So I'm looking into that at the moment. I actually have on Thursday the Irish Architecture Archive. I have that booked out. So that's obviously readily available to us. So I'm just going to spend the day there and do my dissertation, which it used to be 14,000. I think it's been brought down to 12, because you're balancing studio on top of that as well. So it's still a good bit of writing, but again, I'll be doing a lot of the shovel work, spade work over the summer, and so I can hit the ground running come September.
And did you get to choose your own dissertation topic, or was it kind of set for you?
Oh, it's completely up to you. It's whatever you like to do. You choose the direction you want to go, how to push it. And that's what I loved about fifth year here, is that it's your own direction. You're basically your own tutor. What I'm interested in, reuse and revitalizing parts of the city, and almost creating spaces for people that weren't necessarily obvious, like not green sites or brown sites, but something even obscure than that. Hence I'm going down the muse route. So I'm really interested in that, especially in the current climate. Architecture is going
for today, especially, I would suggest. And Chami, what about yourself in terms of your own dissertation? You undertook one, I'm assuming, as well?
Sorry, say that again, in terms of my dissertation?
Yeah, you undertook a dissertation yourself as part of your master's?
Yeah, so since we had two options in urban design and planning to take up a design-oriented dissertation or thesis or a research-oriented dissertation or thesis. Since, as I told you before, since my bachelor's involved a lot of design, I wanted to do something different. So I ended up choosing research-oriented thesis or dissertation. So my core area of interest was always on heritage and historic cities. So I ended up focusing on the revitalization of the historic urban cities. So and how urban design can act as a medium to revitalize those historic urban cores was my thesis. So I took up comparisons from UK, Asia, and Ireland, and that was a cross-cultural comparison based on which I arrived at urban design strategies for the revitalization of these historic cores, which can be used as a standard to apply as an urban design principle on all of the historic urban cities in the world.
Well, there's certainly a common thread between both your interests in terms of revitalization and reuse. So it's actually quite interesting to hear. Somebody's just asking, where is the Master's Architecture Studio located? And is there accommodation for the school located nearby? So Dara, I might let you just mention Richview.
Yeah, Richview. We have our own little quadrangle with our own like memorial hall. Up at the far end of the campus, there's actually a brand new running track being built beside us, so that might come in handy during crits or after. Yeah, we have our own little quadrangle, little cafe, restaurant, our own buildings. Fourth year have their own building, fifth year have their own building, and then first to third year are amalgamated in the larger building. And yeah, accommodation, there's on-campus accommodation. I'm actually living in Blackrock Accommodation, which is a 20-minute cycle, which is actually good. Get a bit of exercise and cycle back in the evening. But I'm looking next year for a house share, more like closer to Richview. So there's loads of options for you. But yeah, I'm looking for a house closer to Richview. And I heard there is like architects' houses where they just kind of pass them down from years to years. So hopefully I'll get lucky with one of them and yeah, live closer to studios.
Yeah, we do. We have accommodation dotted around the entire campus. So the entire campus, which you can see behind me, it's 350 acres. So it is quite a large campus. Richview is part of that. You'll see a lot of our students on bikes, and UCD it's really easy to cycle around UCD. There's a rented bike scheme here where you can just download an app and you can grab a bike, or some students just buy secondhand bikes in the Belfield bike shop as well. And Tommy, did you have experience of living on campus?
No, I was lucky enough to find a house accommodation just close to UCD, which was just like a let's say 20-minute walk to the James Joyce Library and around 30-minute walk to the Richview campus. So I was in a shared accommodation with a family. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And my advice to anyone who's looking for accommodation is Dublin's a capital city. There's high demand for housing. So I'd certainly start early, whether it's looking for on-campus accommodation or looking for a house share. Sorry, just one more question on the architecture, Dara. Someone's asking about your portfolio. I'm assuming you submitted a portfolio, and did you have to go through an interview?
Yeah, so to get into the master's, I had to do portfolio. So what I did is I did my undergrad in Newcastle University, and I did some work in industry. And I just combined them to 5 projects that I thought showed best of my ability, whether it was drawing wise, technical ability, and just kind of innovation in materiality design. Put them together, submitted it, had to be under 12 megabytes. And yeah, make sure you try and even get lower than that. That was me risking it, to be honest with you. Sent it off, and then they liked what they saw. And then I got invited for an interview, and then you just sit down. They go kind of flick through your projects. What was the kind of motivation, narrative, like concepts that ran throughout? And then, yeah, it's a lovely chat. And after that chat, I was definitely gunning for UCD. So thank God I got in. And then this semester, we've already done a portfolio for Christmas, and we're going to do another portfolio for the combined year.
Excellent. And it was a slightly different application process for yourself and Chami, was it?
Yeah, for me, so I actually received, my admission was confirmed by the Indian UCD administration office, but then I mean, I was lucky enough to get a 50% scholarship. So for non-UU people, you basically have a 100% scholarship and a 50% scholarship. So I made an early application to apply for the scholarship, and I ended up getting this one. So mine was a pretty straightforward process, because I know what documents I had to send. I was coordinating with the admin from the Indian office. So the moment I sent all of the documents in the morning, I had a quick call running through all of my works and stuff. In the afternoon and evening, I got my offer.
Oh, well done. Congratulations. And also on your Global Excellence Scholarship. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Yeah, so I think that's all our questions we've managed to answer today. Before we go, any parting words for our incoming students? Any words of wisdom or advice on how to make the most of their time at UCD?
For me, it was just getting involved in the Architecture Society, as well as a sport. That's where I came in fresh in here, and I've just left with unbelievable friends in architecture, and also, yeah, get involved in the sports, because like the university has a cinema on campus, a 50-meter swimming pool, like running tracks, got everything. So whatever sport you want, whether it's table tennis or lacrosse, I'd say get involved and you'll have a great time.
Good advice. What about yourself?
So I'd say that society actually comes up with a lot of events and opportunities, and apart from that, the UCD main campus also comes up with a lot of events. So try and get involved into as many events as possible, because networking really matters a lot. So improve your contacts, participate or get involved. Do not get afraid to initiate things. Yeah. So. And one more thing that I wanted to say with regards to the house that they were asking was, just because you're able to find cheaper accommodations in the County Dublin or in the outskirts of Dublin, don't go for that. Try and find a place which is very close to the university, be it in the university or outside the university. Try and find it close to the university, because that your travel would save a lot of time for you, because you'll really have a lot of work to do with your modules and work. So that's the other thing. And build your profile, keep updating your LinkedIn, try and utilize every opportunity that you get inside the campus. That's what I'd say. Yeah. And try and utilize all of the resources to the best possible extent.
Some very sage advice there from both our students and recent alumni. So look, I wanted to thank you both very much for your time. I know you're both incredibly busy. It's been very much appreciated where our incoming students get to hear firsthand from you both. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. Very much appreciated. And we'll talk to you soon. So thank you very much. Bye.